I have found that language is very important when it comes to the parent-child relationship. The slightest thing can create a wedge in the relationship because the child takes it personally. What I have found is that at the root belief system for most teens and tweens is a thought similar to, I'm not valuable, I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough. This is why the language that we use as parents matters so much, because it can trigger this emotional response, because there is already a belief in there that the child is looking to prove is true. Usually their belief system is negative. So even if we are trying to convey a constructive message, the brain will find the words that match their negative belief system. So I want to talk about the word disappointed. When we are disappointed in anything, what are we really saying? I think usually what we are saying is that we feel let down. Somebody or something has let us down. The dictionary defines the word disappointed as depressed or discouraged by the failure of one's hopes or expectations. So what does that mean for a teenager in this critical time in their lives? When they are struggling at school and among their peers and with teachers and grades and their self-esteem, to feel that they are letting their parents down. Now, some parents may say, yes, I want them to know they are letting me down. I want them to want to try to achieve more or work harder because they know it will make me proud. Now, I'm not saying that it's not healthy for a child to take pride in making their parents proud, but usually if a child disappoints their parent, they feel deflated. So let's ask ourselves, why do we want our children to be the best versions of themselves? For us? Or do we want them to do it for them? I would offer that we want them to do it for them. We don't want them to excel at sports because it makes us happy. We want them to excel at sports because they are proud of themselves and it is increasing their own self-confidence. We don't want our children to get good grades so that we can brag about their good grades. We want them to learn to take pride in their work, and we want them to be securing a bright future for themselves. When we say something to our children such as, I'm so disappointed in you, we are instantly making it about us. You've let me down. Recently, I was teaching a Sunday school class to a group of 14-year-olds. All of these teenagers, to my knowledge, were doing really well. In my practice, I'll see teenagers who some of them are doing really well and some of them emotionally are really not doing well. But this specific class is doing very well. They are involved in activities at school, sports, choir, theater. They get decent grades. They come from loving families, not really experiencing depression. They are all relatively happy. And I'm teaching this class. We're talking about a church-related topic, and somehow the conversation veers off into a different direction, and someone says, well, my parents are disappointed in me. And I ask her, well, how do you know that? And she says, well, because they tell me all the time. And it sparked this whole new conversation. And I asked her, well, what do you think that means? That they tell you they are disappointed in you? She sat and thought for a while and she couldn't really answer that question. And so we went around the room. And I finally asked the class, what I'm asking you is, do you think your parents love you less because they are disappointed? Now, quite honestly, teenagers don't usually surprise me, but I thought she was going to say, no, they don't love me less, but that's not what she said. She said, yes, I think it means they love me less. Really? They love you less because you disappointed them? So I went around the room. There was probably 9 teenagers in the room that day, and I asked, does anyone else feel this way? Yes, yes. Yes, in fact, there was only one teenager that spoke up and said, well, I think it works like this. I think when you disappoint your parents, they do love you less. But then when you do something they're happy with, they love you more again. 14 years old. So then I did a visual. I said, okay, let's say there's a love jar. It's filled with love. When you do something that disappoints your parents, does the love go down and there is less love now in the jar? Almost all of them nodded their heads, yes. Well, then how do you get it back? How do you get more love? Shoulder shrugs. So I reiterated again. So you are telling me that you really believe that when your parents are disappointed in you, they love you less than everyone else in the house. Yes. Yes, they said. That's what they believe. I think this is so interesting because, first of all, I think their parents would have been shocked to hear this. In fact, I even challenged the one girl who brought this topic up to go talk to her parents and ask them, when you are disappointed in me, does it mean that you love me less? Because I know the answer is going to be, of course not. But no matter how much we talked about it that day, I was not able to change her mind in that moment. And now this wasn't a coaching class, so I had to let it go, other than to offer the class that there is nothing that they could do or not do that would make them any less valuable than they are right now, any less worthy of love, that they are infinitely lovable and valuable exactly as they are. Now, there are a lot of well-intended parents who will say things like this, and I believe what they mean to say is, I love you, but I'm disappointed in the behavior. But even then, when you really think about what it means to be disappointed in a child, what it means to them, what they are experiencing when they hear that word, whether it's a rebellious child that starts to believe, well, I'm never going to make you happy anyway, so I'll just do whatever I'm going to do. Or an obedient child who hears that word and thinks, well, I'm just a terrible person. I'm disappointing my parents. I just don't think there is anything positive that can come from a child hearing the words, I'm disappointed in you. If we as parents are disappointed, it's not because of what our child is doing. It's because of our own expectations that were not met. It's because we have thoughts about what they should be doing and what we don't want them to do. And if we don't want to be disappointed, then we can learn to manage ourselves. Sometimes we think that by shaming our kids, we are motivating them to do what we want them to do. But this is rarely true. And even if they do work harder in the moment to please us, it will be short-lived and the price they pay for it is high, because feelings of shame only lead to more feelings of guilt and worthlessness. We learn through coaching that negative thoughts always create negative emotions, and nothing good and productive will ever come from your child feeling bad about who they are. Our children are motivated to do better when they feel better about themselves. I suggest that we remove the language and implement healthy consequences for poor behavior. And instead of lashing out and using harsh language, but rather sitting down, explaining the reasons behind the rules and expectations, using helpful language, and following through on consequences that you've set in your home, this will make all the difference in the way your child not only experiences you and trusts you in their life, but also in the way that they see themselves and feel about what they can accomplish moving forward. I would suggest evaluating your language and making decisions ahead of time about how you will respond to your expectations not being met. And one of the best things that you can do for yourself as a parent is to expect for your expectations to not always be met.